Names, roles, and callings in the assembly. The Jerusalem assembly did not speak of hierarchy or titles the way kingdoms of men do. They lived as a household shaped by callings, each woven into the life of the people like threads in a single garment. Every role carried weight, not status, responsibility, not pride. Yahweh had always ordered his people this way. Fathers guiding their tents, elders judging at the gates, prophets speaking his word, servants carrying burdens, overseers watching from the walls. The first believers stepped into this ancient pattern with joy, knowing that each calling was a tool placed in Yahweh's hand to build his household. At the center stood the apostles, men chosen by Yeshua, eyewitnesses of his life, his death, and his rising. They were the boundary stone layers of the new household, not men seeking honor, but men laying foundations with scarred hands. They taught in the temple courts each day, opening scripture as a shepherd opens a fold, guiding the flock through the ancient paths. They judged matters too heavy for others to carry, strengthened the timid, appointed elders, sent workers into distant fields, corrected error, and bore the weight of the covenant on their backs. When spears rose, they stood in front. When the prisons opened, they were the first to enter. They did not rule by force. They guided by walking ahead of the flock, their footprints visible in the dust for others to follow. Beside them stood the elders, the gate judges of the assembly. These were men known for steadiness, men whose lives were straight like plumb lines held against a stone wall. They guarded purity, settled disputes, protected the weak, upheld righteousness, and ensured that peace filled the household. When two brothers clashed, the elders listened. When a household faltered, the elders strengthened it. When false words crept toward the assembly, the elders shut the gate. Their authority came not from position, but from a life lived with integrity, proven in their own homes and honored among the people. Overseers served shoulder to shoulder with elders, watchmen on the walls of the community. They kept their eyes open for danger, guarding doctrine, protecting unity, and strengthening the flock through vigilance. Their work was not dominion but care, ensuring that no wolf entered unnoticed, no wound remained untreated, no weary brother walked alone. The Ruach HaKodesh placed these men in the assembly, giving them sight to see what others overlooked and courage to act when danger approached. The servants, those 7 chosen men, carried the heart of Yeshua with every task. They were table stewards, burden bearers who handled the daily distribution to widows with fairness and gentleness. Their hands lifted pots, prepared bread, delivered portions, resolved tensions, and preserved unity. Their service was no less than the apostles' teaching. It completed it. Through them, the compassion of Yahweh became visible. Through them, the household remained whole. Through them, widows were honored and no one lacked. Prophets stood among the assembly as voice-bearers, carrying Yahweh's warnings, encouragements, and directions. Their words were not vague or ornamental. They cut through confusion with clarity, calling the people to purity, strengthening weary hearts, and revealing dangers the eye could not see. Their words were weighed carefully by elders and tested by Scripture, for the assembly feared Yahweh and desired truth above all. When the Ruach stirred a prophet, the household listened with reverence, knowing that the breath of Yahweh was near. Teachers labored with scrolls and memory, opening Scripture line by line, story by story. They drew water from deep wells and poured it into the people's cups. They connected Torah to the life of Yeshua, revealed the meaning of parables, explained the prophets, corrected misunderstandings, and shaped minds with patience. Teaching was not lofty speech, it was daily bread. Hosts opened their doors so the assembly could gather. Their homes became sanctuaries, lamps lit, tables prepared, water poured for weary travelers. Without hosts, the assembly had no hearth. Without their open doors, the way had no shelter. In their households, children played at the edges while elders spoke, Bread was broken, prayers were lifted, and the sound of psalms rose into the night. Widows remained honored in every gathering. They were mothers of Israel, women of prayer whose words carried weight in the courts of heaven. They received the first portion at the table, not as charity, but as honor. Their presence reminded the assembly that Yahweh watches the vulnerable and measures righteousness by mercy. And woven through it all were the families, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, whose homes formed the living framework of the assembly. Fathers shepherded their tents, repeating the teachings of the apostles, guiding their children, guarding purity, settling disputes, leading prayer, and modeling righteousness. Mothers carried the lamp of wisdom, shaping the inner life of the home with gentleness, order, and strength. Children learned by watching, by walking behind their fathers on the path, by hearing scripture at the table and seeing mercy lived before their eyes. The assembly was a single household with many rooms. Apostles laid foundations, elders guarded the gates, overseers watched the walls, servants carried burdens, prophets spoke fire, teachers opened scripture, hosts kept lamps burning, widows prayed, fathers taught their families, mothers shaped hearts, children grew into the next generation of covenant keepers. This was no institution. This was a family, a city of living stones joined by covenant, set on the foundation of Yeshua, breathing with the Ruach HaKodesh, ordered by ancient wisdom and walking the way with steady feet.